Today, I am privileged to be joined by the chair of the Business and Entrepreneurship program here at Howard Community College, Linda Mercurio. Linda started her career as a tax lawyer in New York. She transitioned into the entrepreneurial world with her own law firm and a coaching and consultant practice. And later, she moved into the world of education, which eventually brought her to Howard Community College. Through Linda's experience, it is clear to see that she has a special interest in advancing women in the business world. She is also excited about career reentry and transition, and in education, she has a special affinity for working with first generation students. Linda, I want to welcome you to our show today. And I want to start a conversation learning a little bit more about those three areas of interest that you show so strongly throughout your career, advancing women in business and law, career re-entry and transition, and first generation students. They're very specific areas. And I wanted to know if maybe you have personal connections to those areas, and maybe that's what's driving that passion, or has this been something that you have discovered as you have gone through your journey and just interactions with others in your areas of expertise? Just talk to us a little bit about how you came to have those special interests, and how that has defined you as the professional you are today. So thank you for joining me this morning, and welcome to our show.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. It's a privilege to be here. And it's always a privilege to be able to talk about, sort of one's career, and then sort of to be able to share out about this great department that I am part of. So to answer your question, yes, I have a personal connection to all three of those areas. And I think that that's typical. Sometimes when, we find our passion, right, that's where we kind of go towards in terms of work. I started my career, like you said, as a tax lawyer with a firm in New York, and this was in the early 1990s. And at that point, there were very few women in the firm, and there were no partners that were women. There was only one female manager that I can think of. And this was at a time when partners in the firm belonged to sort of social clubs and athletic clubs in the city. And so, for lunches, they would take the team out to lunch. And the women, of course, a part of the team were invited to the lunch. But the challenge for us was that once the lunch was over, we actually had to leave because women were not allowed in the social or athletic parts of those clubs. And,
Wow.
while that may be sort of funny, right? Like to look back on like that happened. That was weird. It really did sort of challenge the way we were able to get business, right? Because a lot of the bonding happened with the partners and the associates while they were shooting pool, right? Or while they were doing other things at the social club that we had to leave for. And then, when I moved to higher education, which was in the mid 1990s, I found myself the only female faculty member in the entire Department of Accounting and Law, and only one of two in the entire College of Business. And, despite the fact that I took women in the law in law school, and I certainly learned about feminism and all of that kind of stuff while I was in college and law school, it didn't really click for me. This didn't really click until I was in higher education and I was in the Department of Accounting and Law. And I realized that a lot of the young women who were studying business were lining up outside my door to have conversations. And I think it was partly because they had never had a woman faculty member before that they could talk to and they could connect with. And sort of that became my awakening, in terms of trying to do what I could to advance women in the law and in accounting and in business. In terms of career reentry and transition, well, I've had many. So I am sort of, very connected to that. I very early in my career believed that, to have a successful career, you needed to have a linear career because that was very much the model in the law. And if you deviated from that, it was very hard to get back on track. And so what I discovered as I was pursuing opportunities that sort of came to me, and some that I sought out, that transition is hard, but that you can do it, right? And it became a little bit more challenging once I had my daughter, which is sort of a career break point for a lot of women, right? And you step off the career path for a period of time. Most of us think we're going to get back on, and then we struggle to get back on. So when I had my daughter, I was out for a little bit, and I really wanted to be intentional about how I came back in. And so I started doing a lot of research around this area of relaunching, started my own consulting practice, and then was very privileged to be able to develop a program for American University's Law School that focused on relaunching attorneys. And so I developed sort of my expertise in that area through the work that I did at American University. And then in terms of, I think the third one was first generation, you asked about. So I am not technically a first generation college student. My parents did go to college. They went to City College in New York, where they met, married, and then had a family. To support that family, my father took a temporary job, which he then retired from 35 years later. So he took a temporary job to support his family. And my mom became, a full-time mom and homemaker. I mean, she eventually did go back to work many years later. But my experience in college was very much similar to what a first generation college student would experience. My parents didn't understand sort of sleeping away at college. That was something unusual to them. They actually told me I needed to go to college within a half hour from where we lived. And when I did sleep away, they dropped me off on Monday morning and they picked me up on Thursday afternoon. There was a real cultural sort of pressure for me to marry and have children young. I had 3 brothers. I was the only daughter, and in an Italian Catholic Brooklyn culture, typically the women did not get degrees, no less advanced degrees. It's remarkable, in fact, that my mother did go to college because her grandmother, who was significant in her raising, actually was homeless for most of her life. She raised my grandmother and her other children on the rooftops of buildings in New York City and in the doorways. And this is a story I did not come to know until I was well into my adult years. So my grandmother was raised essentially on the streets of New York. And when she had my mother, she decided that no matter what, her daughter was going to get an education. And so really it was through that push and that awareness that changed the trajectory of my life. It's amazing to me what my parents have been able to achieve, and I'm very grateful for it.
Wow. So many things that you just said that I would love to go back and just have a full on conversation about that. One thing that I do, that I think kind of like stays true no matter which one of the areas we talk about is representation. And I know that's
Mm.
something that we are starting to hear a lot about. Define what's out there already. In your case, you said there were very few women when you first started in your career. Then you had the example at home of your mom and your grandma and all of this. So I want to talk a little bit about that. As we think about business and why representation matters, and throughout your experience and throughout the years, what are you seeing in the business in general? Going from where you were not allowed just because you were a woman in certain areas to how things are today. Give us a little bit of perspective on that.
Yeah, so there has been tremendous growth, but there's still so much more that we can do, right? It's thrilling to me to finally hear from my counterparts who are partners at law firms, that their clients are essentially saying to them, you present us with a diverse legal team or you are not getting our business. And that has been a game changer for law firms in terms of representation. For many years, I think there was sort of the window dressing, and I'll appreciate the maybe form, substance follows form, perhaps. So there was an effort, but it seemed more like window dressing, right? We're going to show that we believe in diversity, equity, and and inclusion, but maybe the policies and the practices didn't really support that. And I'm seeing so much more of that now. And again, still a very long way to go. But
Mm.
you cannot, and I can't remember who said this. Maybe it was Marion Elder. I can't remember exactly who said it, but you cannot be what you cannot see. So, it is critically important that we have representation not only in the workplace, right? But before we even get there, we need to have representation in our college faculty. We need to have representation in our textbooks and the materials that we use, right? We need to make sure that our students, who are a diverse student body, see themselves in the materials that we are presenting them with. And so we're thinking critically about that in our department. Sort of what are the images in the textbooks that we're using, right? What are the language what is the language that we're using in the examples that we give? I think it's critically important. We have a long way to go, but we have come far. I will say that.
Mm. You talked about not just kind of like checking that box, but actually going into and really looking at the establishment, right? And I love for you to talk. You talked about what we can do coming from that teacher perspective, for business
Mhm.
owners, for entrepreneurs, people who are out there trying to figure this out, because we're navigating this on a day to day right now, and we are all very aware of it. And I think that in many ways, we're not sure, right? We're not sure how to properly handle it, what it really means. So to business owners out there, how can they honor that so that it's not just like you said, checking that box, making sure that the faces that we see are of different colors, but as an institution, at the heart of the institution, how can we actually start implementing that, that idea of representation, of inclusion?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's really important that it be a primary value from the leadership, right? So the leadership needs to drive this. To those leaders, I would say, don't be afraid to stumble, right? Don't be afraid to say you don't know, but you want to, right? That your heart is in it, and you want to institute those practices that are going to actually have impact. And you also you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable, because we are going to be learning things that are different perhaps than the way we were indoctrinated, right? And you unfortunately, racism and sexism are pervasive, right? And are foundational in our country, but that is not, it doesn't have to be that way. But for those of us in privileged positions, we have to ask those questions. We have to engage, and we have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable. Start that conversation with someone. If you are not sure what to say, admit to that. You're I'm not sure if I'm not sure if I'm using the right term here. I'm not sure if I'm saying this correctly. Help me understand, right? But we have to do our own work as well. We can't expect other people, especially people who have been disadvantaged, to be responsible for educating us, right? We need to educate ourselves, but we also need to ask questions and engage, and look outside of our own bubbles. I think that's some of the challenge that we're facing in this country right now. We're so in our own bubbles, right? And we listen to only the news we want to hear. We read only the newspapers that tell us what we want them to tell us. And we really need to begin to challenge ourselves to get outside of that bubble, and when we think about the simplest thing, I have worked with people who are saying, I want to diversify my workforce. I want to, really honor this and move this forward. But I'm not getting diverse candidates. Well, where are you advertising? Right? Like, if you're advertising in places that are not going to reach diverse candidates, then your candidate pool is not going to be diverse. So we have to expand and figure out how to make that happen.
Thank you for bringing that up, and thank you for, honoring everybody and saying it's okay to not know. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to admit that, we may want to do it and just don't know how to. I think that that's really important to accept for everybody, right? For all of us, because our experiences, like you said, determine our actions and our decisions today. And in order to move in a different direction, we have to learn that, right? That's just how life works in every
Yes.
aspect. So I really appreciate what you just said, and I hope that everybody listening, takes on this challenge on this 2022. If you are a business owner and you're really interested in diversifying and really understanding what that means, have these conversations. Maybe come to HCC, maybe take a non-credit class, maybe talk to Linda, maybe see what we can offer. Maybe we can become that safe space where these conversations can happen in our classrooms and we can start really, making strides towards that inclusive work environment where everybody feels safe and is empowered to be and becomes an example for the future generations. So I'm excited about that. And I know that HEC really values diversity and inclusivity, and we are trying hard to engage our community in that. So, talk to us. Maybe this is the place where you can start having that conversation. Linda, going back into business school, right, and going back into looking at business as a profession, talk to us about that, right? Like when we say, I was having this conversation with my daughter who wants to go into culinary school, and I asked her, what do you want to do? What is your goal in the next 5 years? And she talked about this farm to table business and bakery. And I was like, okay, so if you're thinking that way, what do you need to, and what are the things that you're going to need to know and learn? And she kind of looked a little bummed. She was like, oh, business. She was like, math. I don't want to do math. And so I would love for you to kind of help us really define, right? Business. When we talk business, do we need to be really smart with math? Is this only for those who are really apt for mathematics and have a lot for that? Or who is this career for, and what's that career outlook like?
Yeah, that is a great question. Somewhere I gave a talk about how you don't, I didn't anticipate this question, but I gave a talk about how, like, you do not have to be a math person, have a math brain to succeed in business, and not even to, get your degree. I do not have a math brain. I maxed out at being able to help my daughter with her math homework when she was in the 5th grade. So I want to put all of that to rest. Yeah, you're going to have to take some accounting courses, but accounting is not math, right? I mean, it has math in it. But it's not math, right? You're going to learn a little bit about finance, right? But again, not math. So I think, one of the benefits of having a business degree or studying business is that everything you want to go in, right? Culinary, hospitality, baking, it's all a business. Everything is a business. As our former dean, Sharon Schmickley, used to say, everything is a business, right? And I think the business degree really sets you up for versatility. It teaches you both practical like life skills as well as business skills, right? I think it opens up so many opportunities for you. I mean, some of the best creative artist people are also the best business people, right? And some of the
Mhm.
best business people are endlessly creative. Some of the things and skill sets and knowledge that you learn in a business degree, communication skills, marketing skills, entrepreneurial mindset, finance, project management, all of these things are very, very practical, and there are skills that are transferable to no matter what sort of industry that you want to be in. And that includes the nonprofit world. That includes the artistic world. And I think, for the parents listening, one of the benefits of a business degree is that there are job opportunities out there, right? And the average salary, I think, for someone with an associate's degree in business is about $50,000. And the earnings potential with a business degree is significant, right? So, I think that is something that always appeals to to the parents who are investing in their careers, but also to those who are transitioning and upskilling. I just think that a business degree sets you up well. It teaches you how to think. That's one of the things that they always just tell us in law school. Well, you're not here to learn how to practice law. You're here to learn how to think. And I think
Hmm.
that's what a business degree does as well. It teaches you how to think and problem solve, which will benefit you no matter what you do.
And talking about that career outlook and just clarifying that isn't. I love the fact that you said it's versatile and it opens up opportunities. I know that when I graduated high school, I mean, I knew that I wanted to be in this industry, but it's been through working and it's been through different experiences and actually having other jobs that I've discovered that there's more than just that idea, that little idea that I had, when I first graduated, and that I had to discover that. So, for somebody who's out there maybe listening, watching, and thinking, I know that I want to go maybe into the medical field, but I don't necessarily want to be that person on the OR or the ER, right? I don't want to be, I can't deal blood, but I really am fascinated about health, right? Maybe business is the way to go into that. There's just so many things that you can do with a business degree in many different areas. Like Linda just said, that you don't have to envision yourself as in a linear way, but rather open up your opportunities. And I thank you also for, telling us you can come and get your associates here and start earning $50,000, with a business degree in the market, because if affordability is one of those things that's stopping you maybe from farthering your career, come take a look at HCC. I mean, it's affordable. It's Linda, I want to talk about the flexibility of learning as well, because I know that that's one of the things, right? It's affordability and time, usually the things that get most in the way of people farther in their careers. And I know that we have actually developed great opportunities for people to really study online, in person, hybrid. I mean, we have so many options. So let's dive into that a little bit. Let's break away some of those barriers that may be stopping somebody from furthering their education, and tell them that HEC has those options, those opportunities for them to come and do that.
Yeah, and that is really what we're all about, right? Finding those pathways, those varied pathways for our students. And it's not the same pathway for everyone, right? And I would encourage people who are sort of, hesitant, just see it as an experiment, right? Explore, take a class, see where that leads. That's the way to begin, right? So instead of putting so much pressure on yourself that, like, oh my goodness, I have to get this associate's degree and I have to get it in 2 years, and like, sign up for that first class, so that you don't have that huge pressure hanging over you, and then let that lead you to the next step. Sometimes we get overwhelmed with how large the project seems, how big the endeavor seems, how long term it seems, that we forget that we just have to take steps to get there. And we have so many different options. We, in the business and entrepreneurship department, we have 2 degree programs and we have 2 certificates. Our business administration degree is now offered fully online. So for students who, are working full time or have other competing interests, who are raising a family, and working full time, right? I'm so impressed by all that our students do at the same time that they're going to school. But the business administration degree is now offered fully online. The other degree that we have is the General Studies Business Leadership and Technology degree. And that degree is similar to the business administration degree, but it has a little bit more flexibility. There's more elective options in it. So for those that are looking to explore a little bit more, not sure, maybe I want a more technology emphasis, maybe I want a leadership emphasis, it gives you a little bit more room to explore. The two certificates that we offer, one of them is the entrepreneurship certificate, and that is for those who are sort of at the very beginning stages of wanting to launch a business, or maybe they have an idea about a business, but it's also for those who just want to develop the entrepreneurial mindset, because the entrepreneurial mindset is really key no matter what you do. I like to tell my students and my coachees, like, no matter what work you are doing, as whether you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur, you should be doing the work in front of you as if you own it, right? As if it is your own business, and be responsible and accountable with respect to that. And the other sort of category of people we see in the entrepreneurship program. So there's those that are sort of looking to launch a business. There are those that are looking to grow in the entrepreneurial mindset. And then there are those who have actually successfully launched businesses, but launched without sort of structure, right? Launched without all those pieces in place beforehand. And they want to now come back and sort of learn a little bit more about putting structure to what it is that they actually launched. And then finally, our last certificate is a new certificate. It is the Data Business Analytics Certificate. Data is everywhere now. Just about every single industry or job is focused on making data-informed decisions. And it is a super in demand field. It's a high paying field. So in the past year or two, we were watching the trends, and we thought, how do we add value for our students, and how do we offer a great certificate that can really enhance the marketability of someone who is looking to career transition, or to upskill, or to even do an add-on to their current degree. And we developed the Business Data Analytics Certificate. In that certificate, students will focus on business analysis. They will take a class in data analytics. They will take a class in data visualization. They will learn a little bit about, take a class in Python. They will do business communications and project management. And it's a really great sort of combination of important grounding knowledge and skill sets for people who are moving into that field. One of the great things about doing the certificate is it also offers the opportunity for you to get what we call stackable credentials, because in addition to the data analytics certificate, you would be eligible to get a project management certificate and a certificate in using one of the data visualization platforms, whether that's Power BI or Tableau. You can get a certificate in Python. So there's this way to continue to make yourself more marketable. And for those that are looking for a degree, the certificate actually rolls right up into our General Studies Business Leadership and Technology degree.
Lena, there's so many things that you just mentioned, so many opportunities here at HEC, but I want us to go back and really discuss that entrepreneurial mindset, right? That you talked about. You said that, sometimes people just want because they want to start developing more of that, not necessarily because they want to go into a business. And I think that's one of the questions that a lot of times is in our minds, right? I know it's in my own mind and a lot of my friends. As we are developing our careers, it's usually that, should I be an employee? Should I have my own business? And I know these days, at least social media, Instagram, I follow a lot of pages like that where they're really pushing you to be your own business, your own boss, be your boss. That's very
Mhm.
appealing to a lot of people. So you've experienced both. You've been an employee, you've been an entrepreneur yourself. I want you to talk to us about similarities,
Mhm.
differences. Is it a certain type of people maybe that should consider being an employee rather than an entrepreneur? You talked about how we should always own whatever it is that we're doing, and I love that concept, and I think that that applies to everything in our lives. But when we're looking specifically at our career choices and where we want to go in life, are there certain things that we should be very aware of before we decide whether opening our own business is the right path, or if we really should just and I say just as if it was a small thing, if we should just go that route of having that finding that right job, that right place, that right atmosphere, and making that our career?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to two things. One is really knowing yourself, right? Knowing what your strengths are, knowing what your skill gaps are, and then timing. And I think timing, I say, is connected to your risk tolerance, right? So there may be times in your life, certainly before I had my daughter, I was, much more open to taking risks, right? Because I was responsible for me, not for another human being. And if something didn't work out the way that I wanted it to or the way that I expected it to, I could absorb that risk and it only impacted me. So I think you have to think about, what is your risk comfort, right? Because we do know the research bears this out that most businesses do not survive. 50% of businesses, I think, do not survive 5 years, right? And I can't remember the exact statistic, but I think it's like 20 or 30% don't survive 2 years. So you have to
Wow.
be prepared for that, right? And so that's one piece of it. But I think the other, and maybe even more foundational piece is, entrepreneurs need to really be aware of who they are, and what their strengths are, and whether or not they will be able to delegate responsibilities for key components of their business to someone else when they don't have that particular skill or knowledge. And for some people, control is really important. And I get that, right? Like you want to control the whole thing. Um, and at some point, sometimes, especially to scale out, you can't do that, right? And so I do encourage people who are thinking about going out on their own to really do an honest self assessment, right? Am I someone who is going to be able to work endless hours, because that is the truth of being an entrepreneur. There is not a very good work life balance, and at least initially. And is that something you're comfortable with? Is that something that you have the bandwidth in your life to do? If you have family, right? Are they on board with that? Because they won't be seeing you as much as they perhaps once did. So I think that that's really, really important, to sort of just know who you are and what your strengths and sort of skill gaps are, and to understand how you will be able to manage that going forward. I think a lot of people have ideas about what being an entrepreneur is, because we do see a lot of glitzy stuff, right, on social media about go out on your own and be your own boss. It's a lot of hard work. It's challenging. I have always found being an entrepreneur 100 times more challenging than being an employee of an organization. Being an employee does put structure to your day, right? There's typically more resources available. I mean, when I first started my practice, I was just amazed at and so appreciative of the tech help I used to have when I was with the firm, right? It just like all of those things, like every time something happened, I had to fix it. I had to hire someone to fix it. And you don't always have the budget to do that. And so you realize there's so many more things that go into being an entrepreneur, and you have to be ready for that. Now, that said, I also want to say some people have great ideas and have the skill set and the knowledge and the risk level, but don't launch because they're afraid to launch without having all the pieces in place. And here's like, the news flash, they never are, right? They
Mm.
never ever are. And so sometimes you do have to just take the leap.
And that I think that knowing when to do it, even when you're scared, to just take that jump, comes from that first piece of advice that you gave us, which was having that really honest conversation with ourselves, acknowledging what we can and what we have the ability to do and the flexibility to do, right? And then acknowledging also what we don't have and how we're going to go about those challenges when we encounter them. And I thank you so much for doing that. And I also thank you for bringing up family and that support group around you and making them aware, right? And having those conversations, because having a husband who is a realtor and who has his own business, um, we are constantly trying to balance that. And I've come to realize that it's not really about balance. At least for me, it's about presence. It's about, when you're there in that moment. If you say that this is family time, then let's make sure that it is that family time, whether it's an hour or 2 hours. Let's just have that great family time. So it's not a real balance because it's a smaller time that we're having as family, but as long as it's rich and as long as that it's valuable, that it's really family time, then I think that that's sufficient. So for those of you out there who are maybe struggling with that, maybe try that. Maybe to try being present in that moment and, fully mindful of where you are, and that might enrich your experiences, and that might help a little bit with countering, the time that you're at work with the time that you're in with your family at this time. So thanks, Linda, for normalizing that and for bringing that up. I also wanted to talk about, because as you said earlier, is our experiences many times that shape and, where we end up going with our careers, but they also shape how we manage our careers, what we do in those careers, what we bring. And I want to talk about, how your personal experiences are shaping our classes and the opportunities that we're offering our students here at Howard Community College. So take us a little bit into inside the scenes, I guess, of, what the business classes are like, and some of those unique opportunities that we're offering our students based on, all of the knowledge that you and all of the staff and faculty here at HEC have.
Yeah. So let me just say, I just want to go back to that last question and say you really beautifully explained how this, like, it's not about balance, right? We say balance all the time, but it's really not about balance, because sometimes it's 80% work, 20% life, right? But it's being present to that 20% life that makes it an enriching experience, and it also helps you to manage the 80% work that sometimes happens. So thank you so much for sharing that. In terms of the department and our offerings and sort of how my own experience has informed that, I just want to start out by saying I have an amazing team of faculty, and so Professor Mike Bowman, Professor Darren Johnson, and Professor Kathy Norton, they bring their own personal experience and their career experience to bear on not only what they teach in the classroom, but also sort of what we offer in terms of wraparound services and things like that. We are, like I said, very conscious of sort of wanting to make sure that we are inclusive in our teaching and in our connection with our students. And we want to make sure that we are reaching the whole student, right? So we have our subject matter expertise, and that is important, but we want to connect with our students, right? Because we really, all of us truly believe that if we connect first, right, it makes the learning easier. And so they lead a whole bunch of sort of these wraparound services to connect with our students and to provide more full service, opportunities for students. So they lead career workshops where they do resume writing and interviewing skills and how to use social media and how not to use social media. They do also these outside of the office networking events where it's the fact, and we've been doing them virtually, where it's the faculty in a more informal way with the students, and we kind of play music and we do like fun games. And they also have been bringing in inspiring speakers, people of diverse backgrounds, so that our students can be inspired by people who are, perhaps younger in their careers that maybe they can identify with. So we're trying to really bring like a lot of different opportunities, to our students through these various additional kind of services that we do, but like services that we do out of love because we really, really enjoy doing them. I think for me personally, I'm really attuned to the student that may be quiet or maybe struggling and trying to hear behind that. And what I mean by that is, I spent my entire college, certainly law school, and then career, not feeling like I was there as of right, like that I belonged. And I, years later came to understand this as a real phenomenon, the imposter syndrome, and ultimately wound up giving tons of workshops on it. So maybe you do teach what you most need to learn. And I see that sometimes in my students, right? This sense that they're behind that struggle, behind that quiet and reserve is some fear, right? A fear that maybe they don't belong, a fear that maybe, they don't even have words to put to it yet, right? And maybe there's even some unconscious sense of, especially for first generation students, that there's a conflict between, I want to get an education and I want to achieve perhaps more, be the first in my family to get a college degree, to be the first in my family to get an advanced degree. But there's also sometimes a sense of, am I betraying my culture? Am I betraying my heritage? Is it okay to move past the educational attainments of my family, and what does that mean for the dynamics of the family? And so sometimes there's that struggle. So I try to sort of pay attention to that and listen to it, even though it doesn't always come out in words, right? And I certainly don't confront it directly, but there certainly have been times when I've shared my own story and I've had students come up to me afterwards and say, oh my goodness, like I thought I was the only one. My dad wasn't sure that I should even go to college, right? And I don't want to discount the struggle and the courage that takes to go against the grain, because it really is it really is profound, and it's hard and it's lonely. You can be very, very alone with that feeling, and I to the best of my ability, I don't want my students to feel that, and particularly I think for some female students who still are bound by sort of cultural dictates, right, and societal dictates, and not having a sense of really all they could be. And I think that's the same for people of color, right? If they're not represented and they have not seen this, right, in their own families, that they might not have the words for it. they're struggling with it inside. So I think that for me personally, that informs a lot of the way I approach my teaching.
And I thank you for bringing that up because even when we feel certain ways, unless somebody helps us navigate through that, we might not recognize it, right? Like we might not recognize that we're uncomfortable with school, not because we might be good students and we might have the awareness that we're capable, um, but it's
Mhm.
all of those other deterrents or determinants that are out there that we are not recognizing because we simply haven't had those conversations. Or it might be the other way around, right? Where we feel the pressure that I need to perform because that's kind of like the new expectation. And I don't feel adequate enough. And to be able to look at our students and have those conversations and truly connect with them in a more personal level, I think that's the real pathway to success, right? Because the resources are here at HEC, the classes are there, but unless we are looking at our students for who they truly are,
Mhm.
we are just a cult institution, and that's not what we want to be, and that's not what we try to be. We really actually try to be um, a welcoming space, a welcoming place for everybody to come and succeed. I do want to acknowledge that we're still, dealing with the pandemic, and that that's broad, especially since we're talking about connection, and I know that that's been one of the hardest things in the past couple of years, in personal level, in professional level, in so many ways. Tell us a little bit, and you did kind of tell us some of the events and things that you guys are doing, but to ease some of the fear maybe that's still there because of the pandemic, what are some of the things that we're mindfully doing as an institution and specifically as the business career here at HEC to put our students first, keep them safe, and continue to bring that connection and that education that we thrive in?
Yeah. So I think flexibility, right? That's the key. Making sure that we provide our students with flexibility, understanding that some of our students have suffered a loss, right? Or are it's an ongoing loss. Some of our students have been displaced, and we really want to make sure that we are reaching them where they are at in the moment, right? And so, when a student misses a deadline or a due date, but is dealing with a parent who is hospitalized with COVID, at that moment, school is just not a priority, right? Now we want to make sure that we stay connected with the student, and we can do all that we can to keep them on track, right? And I think the faculty in the business department, they do an amazing job of that. I mean, my faculty will call up students and be like, haven't seen you in class, how are you doing, everything okay, can I help you, and just let them know that we're here for them, right? I think that's really key. The faculty here are just outstanding in the way that they put students first. They work above and beyond, in terms of hours, and that is because they want to reach and connect and support students along this journey. And we do a really, we have our eye on making sure that they stay, in the class and they complete the work. So I think flexibility is really key. Also, being present in that sense of like, reminding them, hey, I have office hours, come to my office hours, right? Sometimes they're virtual, sometimes they're face to face. If you can't make my office hours, send me an email. We'll find another time to talk. And I'm not suggesting that everybody do this, but I know for some of my students, weekends are better, right? So, okay, so I do a couple phone calls over the weekend. What's the big deal, right? But it just it allows them to feel like you're on the journey with them, right? You're there to support them. I think that is really, really important during these times. And I also, I try to do some assignments where, when I'm teaching online, where, they videotape themselves to give the assignments, and I send, them videos of me sort of not just like lecturing, but sort of giving like a little, motivational speech, which they may roll their eyes at. I know my daughter would, but I think for some of them, it does matter, right? It does. It's just in that moment where maybe they're feeling like I can't do anymore. Just hearing a little bit of that, what I hope is inspiring, story or quote or something will get them to the next step, right? So I think all of those things are really important.
I thought the eye roll was something my daughter did only, to show all of her love for her mother to me. I thought it was special, but I see that the eye roll is has been normalized here at A2C as well. So, but I love that. I absolutely love that. So thanks for bringing that up, Linda. We have about 10 minutes left here in our conversation. And I definitely want to talk about, the different ways in which we're offering classes this spring semester. Just share with us, please, some of the ways. I know you said that we have one degree that we can fully do online if that's what we choose to do. Talk to us about some of the choices. How do we start? How do we register? How do we continue our education this spring semester in the business department here at Howard Community College?
Well, first, let me just say there's still time. So please, if you're thinking about registering, go to the Howard Community College website, so howardcc.edu. Go to admissions and go to register for classes, and you will be able to explore the many classes that we have to offer. We have online classes, which are completely asynchronous, and that's a big word to say that there's no live component to that class. So your content, the content of the class is delivered through our learning management platform, which is Canvas. It's pretty easy to navigate. If you have never used a learning management platform, you will not have an issue with learning how to use it. And typically the way that works is that assignments roll out. You have a syllabus. You kind of know what's expected of you. There will be materials that you will read. There will be materials that you will view. There will be a significant discussion board component. That's the way we connect and the way you connect with your classmates. So there's the asynchronous, flexible online. That's fully online. Then we also offer classes in the hybrid format, which is meeting once a week in person for about an hour and 20 minutes. And then the rest of the curriculum is delivered through the learning management platform system, Canvas, right? Sometimes those classes, the face-to-face component will be lecture for reinforcement. Sometimes it will be exercises and assignments that you are doing in class. But it's an opportunity for you to sort of have the best of both worlds, right? You're taking a class, you get some face-to-face time with your instructor as well as with your classmates, and then you also have flexibility to do a lot of the work online as well. And then we have your traditional face-to-face class, which typically meets twice a week, and it too probably has a learning management system component where you'll be using and submitting your assignments via Canvas, but it offers more of the traditional kind of classroom engagement, whether that's lecture or assignments, depending on how the instructor sort of leads their face-to-face sessions. We are finding that a lot of students are preferring the online, because it does provide a great deal of flexibility. And I think our instructors are very well versed on how to make those classes engaging, even though they are fully online. I came to online education early, but I came kicking and screaming. I did not think that the work that I did in the classroom would translate well into, an online space. And I'm super happy to say that I was wrong. You really can create a warm, engaging learning environment in a fully online, what we call flexible online class here at Howard Community College. So I would encourage people to really check it out. Go to explore some of those classes. If you want to learn more about the business and entrepreneurship department, you can go to academic programs on our website. pull up business and computer systems. That's our division. And then go to business and entrepreneurship. You'll see some of the classes that are part of the business administration degree and some of the classes that are part of the general studies, business leadership and technology, as well as our certificate programs. But it's not too late. And we would welcome you. And also, I want to, if it's okay, give out my email address. So it's lmercurio, MERCURIO at howardcc.edu. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions about the courses, about setting up, a curriculum for you, and even talk about, if you're not sure if this is where you want to go, we can have a little mini coaching session. So please do reach out. I mean that most sincerely.
So we've learned today everything about the business department here at Howard Community College, the 2 degrees, the 2 certificates that we have for everybody who's out there considering a career in this. We learned about the flexibility, the versatility that comes with this career. We learned that howardtc.edu is really the best place for you to go and find more information. You can also come to campus if you prefer to talk to somebody, financial aid office. If you want to talk to an advisor, there's ways that you can do that online as well. And all of it is in howardcc.edu. Linda, I want to thank you for sharing this morning with me. I want to thank you for bringing all of this information, for sharing some of your personal story as well, and helping us understand how that shapes, the classes, the opportunities, and the things that we offer here at to our students here at Howard Community College. I want to end our conversation by asking you if there's anything else. If there was maybe one thing, we have a lot of information. We put a lot of information out there, and I know that that can be overwhelming. But if there was maybe one thing that you want to make sure that everybody who's listening and watching takes with them today, what would that be?
Take the first step. Take the first step. Sometimes it feels like a huge leap. But the universe has a way of supporting you once you take the first step. That would be my thought. And maybe that first step is going to explore on our website and seeing all that we have to offer in the business department and in other departments at Howard Community College. It doesn't have to be the business department. Go explore. Take that. Invest in yourself. And I think that's key.
I appreciate that, and that hits home with me because when I came back to school after having, I think, both my babies at the time, I took that first step, and just like you said earlier, I took that one class, and I came back, and I was a student who's non-traditional, who, much older than many of my peers, and I was taking one class per semester. By doing that, it started me into this path of, I ended up having 2 associates. At my last 2 semesters here at HCC, and I don't recommend this to anybody, but I was like taking 5 classes. I was taking classes every semester. It was, I took that one class. I did that for a couple of semesters, and then I just found that I was capable of doing it, that my family supported me, and that yes, it 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 was work. It was hard work, but
Mhm.
it gave me a lot of I don't know, it just gave me strength. It just gave me purpose. It just kept me moving forward. And so, Linda, I think that's the best way to send everybody out today on this show, with that idea of taking that first step. Whether you think it's a small step, whether you think, like I remember feeling like I used to be such a good student and taking all of these classes, and I took a lot of pride in that, and I felt almost bad that I was coming back with just that one class. But had I not taken that one class in that first semester, in that first step, I would not be sitting here today. So take that step, come to HCC, talk to us, talk to our advisors, go to howardcc.edu. Whatever it is that you feel that you can do today to move your education forward, go ahead and do that today. Linda, thank you again for sharing your space, your time with me this morning, and your story. And thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. Share this with your friends, with your family, with your peers on social media. If you want to leave us comments, if you have questions, please go right ahead. We're here to help you. And until tomorrow, I will be back with another guest. Thanks so much for being with me. I am Cris Oviedo.